Alright guys, now let's reflect a little, shall we? Let's reflect a little on what's happened, what happened with this little experiment of ours here. So, we made Luke Padme for several reasons. First, we wanted to see if it would work. We wanted to see, and we specifically wanted to see how different it was from a Luke Padme to a Luke Ackbar. Now, I'll admit that wasn't perhaps the best Luke Padme list, but I think it was close enough so that we can start seeing where some of the parallels lie. I liken this perhaps to maths, where have if you have two equations with the same variables, you take the two equations from each other and see what you're left with to try and figure out a best solution. That's the same thing that I'm trying to do here. I want to see what Luke Padme offers to see what I can better do with Luke Ackbar. And I think we've got some stuff. I think we can draw some conclusions here. Um, Apart from some simple things like Let the Wookiee Win was actually a surprisingly decent card. Scavenge was a great idea, but it never really worked for me. Um, Diplomatic Immunity, it worked that one time I actually drew it. I could definitely do with having two Diplomatic Immunities, but more importantly, the Ackbar is here mostly for his resource side and his two focus side. That two focus side is going to come up a lot when you got a lot of focuses, and you want to have those early upgrades to get those focuses out. Padme can be built on herself. Also, of course, special mention to Hunker Down. Incredible card. Always gives you so much shields. Always so valuable. That's the best. Probably the best thing about Luke Padme is the Hunker Down, surprisingly. But anyway, back to Luke Ackbar. I've seen here that Luke Ackbar, it requires the specific deck shell requires the use of both characters, right? When I was playing Luke Padme, I never once, never felt, oh, I wish I had a leadership here. I built Padme up, and Padme became very useful. She became asset to team. I can't do that when I'm running leadership. If you remember in tournament game 5 and 6, my opponent Labes was using a hit and run and a Poe. And he said to me after the game that he felt he has to put upgrades on Poe because he's got hit and run. And it's the same thing here. You've got leadership, so you feel like you have to be building the Luke. Then when the Luke dies, the Ackbar just falls over dead. When really you want to be building both. You've got opportunities to build both. Force Training is a great card on the Padme or the Ackbar. It's a great card on the support. It's got the focus, it's got the damage, it's got the shields. It's a great card on the sides. Not a great card to put on the Luke. You can replace with it, but it's not that great. So for that reason, I have decided that what this Luke Padme shows to me is that I don't need leadership in my Luke Ackbar anymore. I am now officially going to cut leadership from Luke Ackbar. The question then becomes, what do I put into it? Well, I've got 11 possibilities here. These 6 are events, and these other 5 are upgrades. And these are what I think can go in. I've already made up my mind, but let me try and talk you through some of the thought processes behind each of these. Alright, so events are clearly what you might want immediately. You're immediately thinking here. The Luke Padme showed that I could definitely use events. Those last couple of games definitely showed I could use some events. Leadership is an event. It's an out-of-hand event. It makes sense to replace it with an event. Have I said event enough times to make it, meaningless yet? But seriously though, if you can avoid the damage, Luke can stay alive longer. Ackbar can stay alive longer. This deck could use some more, deflections effectively. Not actually deflect, but realistically, it could probably use another deflect in this current meta. But I only have one in as a meta core right now in case I run into a Jabba, Dooku slash Vader. But anyway, so let's go from left to right here. Dodge is a very expensive event. Very expensive, but is really good at punishing those really, really bad rolls. Yeah. Well, not bad rolls, but rolls that aren't great, right? Django activates. He rolls his dice. He gets a lot of the modifiers, but not the actual damage. You're allowed to dodge. Same thing with Poe or the higher guns running their dice that require resources. They then have to find a resource somewhere. You can just dodge out of the way of that, right? This is a very heavy range meta right now, so dodge is always a possibility. If you're lacking some cards for Luke Ackbar, you can potentially just put in dodge and be okay. Let me just swap this around here. Should have maybe planned out my talk a bit better. Anticipate is again a very similar thing. It's really, really good at dealing with people with modified dice. They have to choose and resolve any number of their dice. It gives them an all-in, but then they have to remove all the dice they did not resolve. It removes all blanks. It removes stuff they want to reroll into something better. Say like they roll several sets of disrupts, and you only have the 2 resources for the anticipate. It can completely shut that down. It can shut down an entire opponent's turn. Anticipate is very powerful, but again, it's 2 resources. This is kind of a resource-heavy deck, at least early on, but that definitely could make a play here. Comlink, it's an upgrade, but it's basically an event, really. I mean, come on. It's got 2 focus sides, it's got 2 resources sides, it's got a shield side. It's what you want to roll here. The double focus sides. I showed that focus is what you want. It's got an extra focus side over the force training. You can re-roll either your dice or an opponent's dice, and re-rolling an opponent's dice can be very useful. It can be some very good soft mitigation for an upgrade. You can also do play in the Imperial Armory with it, and then you can play it for 1, and you can do the re-rolls. It's a flexible card. Willpower. However, then we get to other things, right? Some of these are kind of softish mitigations. Let's swap that around. Now, however, Mind Trick removes dice completely. Split a dice into two groups. I get to choose one of those groups and remove all the dice in it. What this means is that, at a minimum, you are removing 1 dice. If that's the 1 dice that's going to kill you, you're spending 2 resources to stop a dice that is going to kill you. Right? Your opponent could have, oh, I've got 5 blanks and a cunning, and he splits them into 2 groups, and you know the cunning's going to kill you, you can still kill that cunning. It is a 2 cost to remove any dice in the game. That's not awful. A Mind Trick can get a bit better than that. Your opponent rolls 2 jetpacks at a 3 damage, and then the 2/2 damage from Django. Alright, that's potentially 10 damage here, you can mitigate 5 of that. That's not terrible. That is not terrible at all. There's some really good situations where Mind Trick can work, but again, it's 2 resources. These are all 2 resources, and you can't necessarily afford that. So it's difficult, because you want to be because one of the big problems is that you'll find that in these decks you want to be choosing, you have to make a conscious decision whether you want to play an upgrade or you want to mitigate. And Mind Trick, unfortunately, is one of those cards that's expensive, so I won't be able to upgrade that turn. And then we move on to some of the 1 costs. That are a bit different. Willpower is a good card. It's slow. It's 1 damage. It's a 2 damage swing. 1 damage from you to an opponent. Luke loves to use this card because he only has 12 health, right? So moving 1 damage is very effective on him. And it goes to an opponent's exhausted character that ignores shields. The ignore shields part is kind of useful at times, but it moves 1 damage from you to an opponent, and oftentimes they'll only have 1 health left. Put in 2 of these guys, and that's a swing of 4 in total, which isn't terrible. But the one I would choose out of all of these, just out of these, is probably going to be Field Medic. Heal 2 damage from a character. So this is something very interesting about Field Medic. I didn't originally include this, simply because there's better cards, right? I looked at Field Medic, I looked at Dug In, and I said, I'm going to choose Dug In. Dug In is, if you control a battlefield, get 3 shields. It's a slightly better healing. But Field Medic is a good card in and of itself, for the healing too. Now you might be thinking to yourself, well, Anticipates, Dodges, Comlinks, Mind Tricks, those guys will usually remove more than 2 damage, potentially, right? They have the better chance of removing more than 2 damage. Which is true, alright? But there's one very interesting thing about Field Medic, which people don't necessarily pay attention to. And that's the lack of tempo loss. So, one big problem that this deck needs is that it needs to control the battlefield a few times. Defensive position and Dug In. That's something that the Luke Padme doesn't have to worry so much about, but defensive position and Dug In both require you to control the battlefield in order to play. And having the first turn advantage is very useful. Against the Django Veers, you're not likely to get that, unfortunately. But with a Field Medic, but with these cards, you can remove your opponent's dice. Great. You remove his dice, he claims the battlefield because he's got nothing else to do. Okay? If you deflect 2 damage off of him, and that's his last card and his last dice on his board, he then just claims. You're effectively saying, okay, I'm going to take an action to remove one of your things so that you do 1 less action. That's a tempo loss of 2, because you're spending an action and then he doesn't spend an action. That's a swing of 2 right there. Field Medic, however, is only 1, because you heal. If your opponent has 2 range damage, and you play Field Medic to heal 2, he still has to resolve that 2 range damage. So if that's the last dice on the field to be resolved, you go Field Medic, heal 2, he hits you for 2, you claim the battlefield. It's the exact same as if you dodged, except you get the battlefield, not him. That's a very, very useful thing of Field Medic. And I might be overvaluing that, but I think that's a very big deal. And that's why Field Medic would win out of these. However, it's not just out of those. There's also upgrades to consider. As we also saw, early game upgrades are very important. You need those early game upgrades to resolve resources, to focus, to ramp. Luke Ackbar, there was a good thing in the Discord. The Discord said, I don't remember who exactly it said it, I'm very sorry, but he said Luke Ackbar isn't an aggro deck, it's a fast mid-range deck. And a mid-range deck tends to use more expensive cards, and it tends to resolve some resources early on. And it tends to want to ramp a little. Not much, but a little. And that's definitely how I play my Luke Ackbar. I have one with the Forces, I have some expensive cards. So, some of these early level upgrades are very useful. Promotion and Scout. Promotion and Scout do 2 very similar things. Both of them have a 1 focus and a 1 resource side. You want that. Remember, focuses are really good for chaining for the 2 focus on Ackbar. You want those quite heavily. The difference is that Scout has the 2 disrupt, which can work, that can be very useful, and it has the 2 special. Now the 2 special is interesting. Look at opponent's hand and discard the cheapest card from it. Looking at opponent's hand is useful because it lets you know if your opponent's going to have something like, say, the reversal. I was worried about the reversal last game. Reversal could be completely ignored if I knew he didn't have it. Right? And it would also probably have got rid of the negotiation, so I could have dealt the extra 6 damage. But and that also synergizes very well with Ackbar's effect, which is if your opponent has no cards in hand, they take 2 damage, which is very, very useful. Again, Promotion, on the other hand, can only be played on Ackbar. But after you play this upgrade, you may draw a card, which fixes your hand a little bit. We did also notice that my hands aren't always perfect. I need to help fix those. But Promotion has the 1+1 on melee side and the 1 shield. Shields are very useful, of course, as they always are. And the +1 melee side is a nice little +1 damage, right? The +1 range damage is almost never going to be resolved. So you're looking here at between disrupting the 2 resources for 1 resource and the double discard versus a shield and potentially an extra damage and a draw card. Both of those are really good cards. Like I consider Scout and Promotion to be 2 of the best cards Red has access to in general. If you're running a red deck, a red main focus deck like an Ackbar deck or an Ackbar double trooper deck or a Padme double trooper deck or something, you're going to want to be running these. A lot of people would argue Datapad. Datapad's a great card, right? Datapad has a resource side, a double +1 resource modifier, and then a special side. But what people seem to forget is that Datapad's special side is the worst focus for most decks, right? It's if you say I'm resolving specials and then you resolve the Datapad dice, you can then immediately turn something else to a special and resolve that. But Luke Ackbar tends not to have that many specials, right? It has some specials. It has Force Throw. Force Throw is a great special. But for anything else, I'm okay with using the focus. And I've got all in. So I really don't care about the tempo play necessarily. So simply having an actual focus, which I can then turn to his side, resolve, and then turn the Ackbar's 2 focus to a side, and then resolve that, which is better in tempo terms, that's better for me. So I don't like datapad here. That's why I'm not having a datapad. Now, alternatively to these upgrades, also, I should really turn off my Steam, because my Steam is giving a message right now. Yes, calling at low 10 minutes. A friend of mine wanted to know how the YouTube video editor worked. Anyway, by the way, for those of you who don't know, my video editing software is called YouTube Video Editor. It's a really good free software provided specifically by Google and the YouTube Corporation. Try it out sometime. It's literally in your dashboard, in your Creator Studio. Yeah, I know. I don't want to pay. It's good, alright. Anyway, back on target. Back on target. So, the other possibility here is the DH-17 Blaster pistol. It's also a one-cost upgrade, like these, which is very important, by the way. One problem, of course, with promotion specifically is that you tend not to want to play it last. So if you're playing promotion, you're going to want to use the Imperial Armor. You can't really use the Imperial Armory's effect with it. After you play this upgrade, you may draw a card, is the thing, right? And you want to be drawing that card necessarily earlier, so you don't necessarily want to play that with the Imperial Armory. But you can still play it if you got nothing else. It is free, after all. But the DH-17 Blaster Pistol is the cheapest card in the game to damage ratio. It's a one cost, and you've got 3 good damage sides. The +2 isn't going to be used very much, though. So if you consider that more of a blank than anything else, because nothing else in the deck's going to have range damage, except for Force Throw's got a 1 range damage side, and Force Training has a 1 range damage side, but generally you're not going to be able to resolve that +2 range damage. But you might, actually, you might. Yeah, I lie. You might resolve that. And damage is always nice for Luke Ackbar, right? They like their damage, and it's very, very effective cost-wise. However, I prefer the possibility of getting resources. I prefer the more rampy effect, so I'm not choosing the DH-17. Why does my... It feels like my mouse keeps going back to the center of my screen. I don't know. Jedi Robes is the next possibility here. 2 focus sides. 1 disrupt side, and then 2 resource sides, but one's a +1 resource. Jedi Robes gives me pretty much everything I could want dice-wise. Which is very effective. The double focus is very, very nice. I'm not going to lie, very nice. And the effect is... if I get it my first turn, it's good, but I'd rather have got other cards on my first turn, but it's alright. 2 shields is very, very powerful. Very, very powerful on a Luke Ackbar, because they want the health early on, and it gives them that health. It's very effective as a card, but... I don't know. It's the +1 resource isn't the best. The other good thing, of course, about it is that it's blue. It binds all things can work with Jedi Robes. It can't work with any of these 3 because these 3 are red, whereas it binds all things is blue. Is blue only. Jedi Robes can work with that. So Jedi Robes is also a possibility. You see, we've got a lot of really hard choices here. There was also the Anticipate, of course, and the Willpower. We've got some really hard choices of what to put in here. And then finally, Luke Skywalker's lightsaber. Now, I actually just immediately discard this, but I would like to explain why, and that's why I put it here. So the reason why I don't have Luke Skywalker's lightsaber in here, even though it's got a 2 shield side, which is very powerful, it's got a +3 melee side instead of a normal +2 melee side of a normal lightsaber, and the special can be 2 shields or 2 unblockable damage. It's a slightly better lightsaber. But slightly I don't think is good enough, because it's blue character only. I would not play Luke Skywalker's lightsaber if I have the ability to play a Force Throw instead. If I have the ability to play a one with the Force instead. If I have the ability to play Mind Probe instead. My full Luke Ackbar build, my full Luke build does not include this lightsaber. So if I'm choosing an upgrade here, I want something that can go on Ackbar as well, because otherwise it's a completely dead card in my hand. So for that reason, I am discounting Luke Skywalker's lightsaber immediately. So we're down to these 5. I'm discarding the Blaster Pistol again, because I want the potential resources. So this is where I spent a very long time agonizing over the choices. Field Medic, Jedi Robes, Promotion, Scout. All very good options here. Very, very good, very hard to choose from. That double disrupt side can be very effective, and it synergizes so well with Ackbar. It really does. The Jedi robes can give me 2 shields. It can give me 2 shields turn 1. It has the 1 disrupt. You don't have to pay for it, unlike with the Scout. And it has 2 focus sides. I am getting those focuses for those Ackbars. Field Medic. It's not a tempo loss. It's not a tempo loss unlike all the other events. It's 2 health. It's great. And to be perfectly honest with you, I'm probably going to try variants of all of these to see which one is the correct choice, because these are all very close to being correct. But I'm going to be going with promotion. Why am I going with promotion? The drawer card. I'm going with it for the drawer card. It can help fix my hand. It's got what I want, and it can help fix my hand. It's a red character only. I don't care about that. I'm only going to put it on Ackbar instead. If that takes some of the heat off Luke onto Ackbar, I'm fine with that. I want Luke to be the one to 5s. But it's a 1 cost. It allows me to draw a card. It allows me to fix my hands. It allows me to fix everything I could want. Well, it allows me to draw a card, basically. It allows me to fix my hands. And it synergizes nicely with cards like Launch Bay, and it, for keeping my hand size high, and it allows me to have another reroll if I need to. Rerolls are very useful again. So I'm going to be going with promotion, but honestly, any of these 4 could have been the best choice here, and I think I might be going with the wrong choice with promotion. I feel like no matter which one I choose though, I would feel like I'm going with the wrong choice. So we will see which of these 4 is going to be the best one in future, but for now I'm going to try promotion. Now you may be thinking to yourself, well, GameSlayer, is there any other card in the deck that you'd want to get rid of for one of these 4? Because, those were a good choice. And I can't right click because I turned off the GUI. Ha! Search. Alright, so there is potential here. Close Quarters Assault is a great card with the Luke Ackbar, but I don't necessarily need it. I wasn't worried about not ever using it with Luke Padme. It can be very effective, can be quite the shutout card, but that might be something I get rid of for one of these other 3. Other than that though, not really. And if you guys have an opinion on this, you will probably let me know anyway in the comments without me having to ask, but you can always give me your opinion. I welcome the opinions, don't get me wrong, but for now I think this is going to be my deck. Put in the 2 promotions. There we go. So thank you for being on my journey here. This has been me, GameSlayer99, aka No Brainer. Thank you for watching. Shit, I forgot my outro. This will be me, GameSlayer99, aka No Brainer, signing off. I remembered it. Yay! Also, guys, as you might have seen, F11 turns off GUI. This is going to be so much nicer. I can't believe I didn't even notice this. My videos are going to look so much better now. Yay!